Tonight on Uncensored Radio, screenwriter, producer, and director Keith Boynton sits down with Luke, Steve, Vera, and Katrina to discuss his films, The Scottish Play and The Winter House. With a surprise cameo, the usual UCR shenanigans, as well as a sneak peek into Keith's upcoming slasher, you don't want to miss this. Could Katrina be his new Scream Queen? Could Vera have him committed?
Are they going to? Are they going to?
Stay tuned to find out.
As you all know, and as we all know, it is a job of work to do something that you love. And we are going to speak today to someone who knows that only too well. I have my regular hoodlums along with me to discuss. We've got the lovely Miss Katrina A. Johnson.
Hello.
We have Luke. We have Vera. Hi, V. But today we have as very special guests, writer, director, filmmaker, editor, man of many talents, Renaissance gentleman, I guess we could call you. Keith, welcome to the show, Keith. How are you?
I'm all right. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So where in the world are you exactly? Let's figure it out because we are multinational.
Yeah, that's a good question. I am in a very rainy New Haven, Connecticut right now.
Oh, very nice.
The city I was born in, and I'm doing a little return at the moment.
How very Stephen King of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
You didn't get that big nor'easter that's stocking us in here in New York, central New York?
All I know is it's been raining all day, and I've been out in it way more than I would have liked. So I'm in my last dry clothes.
Well, we got the snow.
Oh, you got the snow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
That's worse or better, depending on how you look at it.
Worse.
Worse.
It is.
Colder.
It is.
You never have to shovel rain.
Good point.
That's semantics, really, isn't it? We're going to get into the rain slush debate, and it's just that's not what we're here for, people. It's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about art. We're here to talk about especially movies, because let's go back to the beginning of your journey, Keith. There's always something. There's always that one movie or something that gives the spark of creation. What was the movie that made you want to be a filmmaker?
Ooh, I mean, the truth is, although I love movies, my whole life because everyone loves movies, the thing that made me want to be a filmmaker wasn't a movie; it was a book of movie reviews. It's just such a weird story, but when I was 13 years old, staying at my grandfather's house, I was bored out of my skull. Every book on his shelves was Shakespeare and heavy literature, and I was looking for something easier to read. And I just picked up a book of Roger Ebert movie reviews, and I had never thought of movies as an art form before. It was just entertainment. So there were movies that meant the world to me, but I didn't think of it as something you could make, right? And then I started to read these Ebert reviews, and it sort of opened my eyes to the world of cinephilia. And for a while, I thought I wanted to be a critic, like Ebert. And then, after a few years, I realized, well, the critics aren't really at the party. They're sort of on the outside looking in. So I started making little short films in high school, and then features in college, and then the rest is my own sordid little history.
I was going to ask Keith, how did you find opening that door though into doing professional filmmaking? Like, how was it getting into a very, I guess, tough industry to crack?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in some ways I'm still knocking at the door. I've really just been making my own projects for about 20 years now, and they have sort of taken steps up in terms of professionalism, but I'm still not really in the system. Not really, in a way, I'm not really in the industry. I'm sort of off in my own little corner, making my own things. I'm proud of the stuff that I've done, but haven't reached a mass audience yet. So I don't know. I think I'm still sort of in the nascent phase. At the age of however old I am now, 112. I'm still sort of doing the same thing I was doing when I was 21, just making stuff that I hopefully believe in.
We can definitely relate to the rise and fall of everything, can't we, guys? It's just like, okay, cool.
I want to know, how do you find your inspiration for all of these different projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with trying to find the intersection of what I have and what I can do. So, there's always the indie level. You never have the resources to tell every story that you can imagine telling, right? And so something like The Scottish Play is a really good example where I that knew that I loved Shakespeare and wanted to do something about Shakespeare, but for budgetary reasons, it wasn't going to be a big Elizabethan drama, fancy costumes and ballrooms and all the rest of it. So then I start thinking, all right, well, is there a way to depict Shakespeare on a budget that I actually can, get my hands on? And that's where I got the idea of Shakespeare as a ghost. Because if he's a ghost, then he can sort of look like anything. He can appear anywhere. And it let me tell sort of my version of Shakespeare in Love on a tiny Shakespeare in Love budget.
It's good.
Well, you have to rewrite Shakespeare without rewriting Shakespeare.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, this movie, I ended up writing Elizabethan dialogue, but two different kinds, right? I wrote like dialogue for him to speak when he's appearing as the ghost. Mm-hmm. And then I also had to do his imaginary, spoiler alert, his imaginary rewrite of Macbeth. I had to write Macbeth. And when I started doing that stuff, I was like in front of my computer, like, am I really going to try to imitate Shakespeare? Like, this is ridiculous.
You pulled it off.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it ended up being just a joy to, once I got into it, I found like that, I was pretty familiar with iambic pentameter from being a very, very pretentious teenager. It sort of just flowed out of me. It was really kind of an effortless process and really joyful. And I'm super proud of the way those scenes came out.
Well, speaking of horrible ghosts and from our past and blood and all that kind of stuff, we have a ghost from your recent past.
Oh, uh-oh.
That will be joining us right now.
Hey!
Hey, Keith. How's it, Steve?
Right. So, guys, this
How is everybody?
Well, we are good. This is Brian. Now, Keith, Brian, do you want to explain your Keith connection?
My Keith connection. So that came from working upstate in Newburgh with a company called Choice Films, and I did a few non-union jobs with them, and two of those were Keith's movies. So we've had the pleasure of doing 3 movies together now, one being outside of that production company, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've recently sat down to rewatch the movies, and phenomenal.
So what is it you do, Brian? Don't bury the lead.
I run his camera department.
Yeah.
So I keep everybody in focus.
Yeah, Brian is he's being modest. Brian is the cowboy on set. He's like the gunslinger. Like everyone else can sort of do their job a little bit in a hands-off way, especially me. Like I drink coffee and sort of tell people they're doing things wrong. But Brian is he's the one pulling focus on the camera. So he's like under the gun every take. He has to get it right. The actors can make mistakes. He's not allowed to make mistakes. Very frequently, he's doing this without like enough time to get proper marks, low lighting conditions, camera movement, especially this last feature that we made in Maryland. It was just like all handheld, people running around. And Bryant nails it every time. He's amazing. I can't say enough about him.
Oh, look at
I
the
usually
love.
have the director right over my shoulder too, if that doesn't add any attention to it.
I do have a way of getting right into your space, man. I apologize. It always ends up
we
that
keep
way.
it fun.
We do. We have a good time. Yeah.
It's called being an artist, right? Excuse me. I'm feeling artistic.
Yeah, it's like half the fun is just ending up in some weird situation with an oddball group of people, and I love that experience of being on a set with a crew. It's great.
So we're gonna talk about your 2 most recent releases. We're gonna talk about the Scottish play first because you just mentioned it. So thank you for the segue, by the way. Good. We like that. All these professionals working together. It's a beautiful thing. So you just kind of bury the lead. You're a Shakespeare head. You are a lover of the bard.
I do. Yes. Yeah. Big fan from way back, and I guess I was looking for a way to play in that sandbox. And it was my first time working with Choice Films, shooting in Newburgh. First time working with Bryant. First time working with the cinematographer there, Aitor Mendilabar, who has also shot the last 3 features with me and with Brian. So we've become sort of a filmmaking team, the 3 of us. The Scottish play was great. It was definitely a step up for me in terms of a slightly higher budget, like actors with a little bit more of a presence in the industry, like fantastic actors and people that I admired and have been wanting to work with. And I just love it. I
have a question because we talked about before the show started. Vera's a thespian. Kat's a professional thespian. My thespianism is in my long path, but I went to a performing arts high school, so Shakespeare was crammed into us at a very early age, and I don't think taught in the most accessible way, the most relatable way. So I've always had this kind of block against it, especially when they're like, we're going to do Shakespeare, and part of my soul used to die. Like, oh God, really? Oh my God. It's like, okay, I'm like, give me a comedy, give me drama, give me anything, but just not Shakespeare. But I think that the way that you presented this whole story, and we kind of, already let cats out of the bag plot-wise, was super interesting. But it took a while for me to get the tone of what we were watching. I'm like, okay, is this a drama? Is it a horror movie? Wait, it's a comedy. And wait, is she going insane? Am I going insane? What's like? Was that intentional? I'm like, or am I crazy?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, I guess maybe I wasn't thinking that much about genre. I mean, looking back, I sort of describe it as sort of an elevated romantic comedy or literary romantic comedy. But yeah, when I was writing, I guess I was just sort of following the logic of the story. Like I knew it wasn't going to be a horror film. I knew that the tone was going to be something kind of sweet and affirmational in the end. But you want enough suspense. You want the audience to be a little bit unsure of where the story's going. There are moments when the ghost is genuinely menacing and you're not sure what he's capable of. So yeah, I think I wasn't thinking as much about genre as just about like what would be the most cinematic thing or the most interesting thing.
He's a naughty ghost.
He is. He's very mischievous. Yeah, and also a very physical ghost. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much, but the ghost of Shakespeare, he gets some action in this movie. Does pretty well, which was fun. Yeah, I mean, again, it's so much of my background is just working with actors, and I come from the theater, and like I love the palpability of people in a room together. So the movie was never going to be effects driven. There's a few moments of CGI, right? But it was always going to be about just like actors in a room.
Which surprised me a lot. I was like, he's going through a wall. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Speaking of like your actors, Keith, do you get involved in the casting process as well?
Yeah,
when you're casting for your films?
Yeah, yep. I mean the last movie that Brian and I did together down in Maryland, I actually did all the casting myself. That was my first time working without a casting director in about a decade. But definitely the Scottish play and the Winter House, we had great casting directors for both of them. But I definitely have a hand in. I mean, basically, I get to choose the actors from the options that are presented to me, right? So the casting director has sort of a stable of people that they can draw from, and obviously, depending on the sort of size of the role or the level of visibility of the actor, the process is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it is my movie to cast, and that's one of the best parts of the process for me. I just love actors. I love the different things that they bring to it, and it's so exciting to sort of start looking at the headshots on the wall and to see the cast coming together. And your movie just takes on like flesh and life when you see who's going to embody those characters.
Well, Vera and Katrina, this is your chance. This is you can do your audition piece now. I already planned the whole thing. It's a hostage negotiation with the Olsen twins. They're captured on a yacht. Go.
You cast Lily Taylor. You're aces in my book. She's one of my favorites.
Well, Lily's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing. She was great. Yeah, that was a thrill for me. I mean, I grew up watching her movies, so that was really, really exciting.
Because you do mention that in the Scottish play, how do the director Adam is a little bit starstruck by Sydney. How do you focus that when someone like Lily Taylor rocks up and you're like, oh, hi, you're in my presence and I have to tell you what to do? How does that work?
That's a really good question. I mean, Lily was very lovely. From the moment we first met, she did went out of her way to sort of put me at ease and be as just enthusiastic as possible and warm as possible. And so that helps. A lot of that comes from them. I mean, of course, you try to direct actors sort of in a way the same way, right? You don't want to be thinking about like, oh, this is a prominent person, so I talk to them differently. Like every actor has a slightly different way that they like to work or like to communicate. But you try to approach them all in the same spirit, right? Of, here's where I'm coming from. Here's what you're bringing to it. How do we find a space that works for both? But yeah, you can be intimidating for sure. And, some of these actors just have been around longer than I have and have more experience than I do. And, sometimes you get in your head. Then again, sometimes someone who's, 21 is incredibly intimidating just based on their personality. And sometimes someone very established is relatively not intimidating because they make it easy for you. So it's a little bit hard to predict, I guess.
Speaking from someone who has done their fair share of plays and, group, I think you definitely got the cast right in that repertory company that of like the egos. And it's just like, oh, this rings a bit too close to home. I'm like, there's a little bit of PTSD creeping in there. It's just,
Garrett was phenomenal.
Oh.
Yeah. I agree.
We got Wyn Davies, who was he's one of the resident actors at the Stratford Festival in Ontario, and also a veteran of Slings and Arrows, which was a major source of inspiration for the movie. So that was really, really cool. I got to sort of I think, to be honest, I sort of stole a few things from Slings and Arrows, but to have one of the actors from that show actually show up on my set was extremely exciting. And he's an old pro at Shakespeare from way back.
It's an homage. It's not stealing. It's an homage.
Exactly. Yeah. I think my casting director thought it was a questionable choice. She was like, "Well, we've already done this part," and I was like, "Sure, exactly. Why not?" For me, that was a plus, but I could see it either way.
So there's a question in the movie too about whether directing is a craft or an art, and is that a question you pose yourself quite regularly, or is that just Yes,
all the time. Because I admire directors who have a unique style. Who always bring the same kind of vision or the same kind of aesthetic. It's so cool to sort of know what to expect from a given director. But I also admire the heck out of directors who don't have a style, who really do just sort of let the material lead. And some of my favorite movies are not by great directors; they're just great stories that someone brought to life. I love a director like Martin Campbell, who he's an action director, right? And so he's not trying to impose his stamp on the material. He's not trying to make a Martin Campbell film. He's just telling the story, right? And he puts the camera where it makes sense to tell the story. So it's a debate in my own head constantly. Am I a stylist or am I more of a sort of workman? And I think I tend to land on the side that Adam takes, right? Which is that it's a job, it's a task. It's not about your exquisite artistry. It's about getting something on its feet and making it feel alive to people. And if no one's thinking about the choices that I made or how clever I am, that probably means I did a good job.
Yeah, it's like enabling the art, really. That's your job, is to let everyone play and do their thing at the level that they can, at the best level they can, with your little bits and pieces in there. There's also a big conversation in the movie about brilliant artists being haunted by their brilliance, as we see with Shakespeare. But everyone talks smack about his play, and that kind of brings him back. Do you think brilliant artists are haunted by their brilliance in the long run, in the end?
I mean, speaking as just a normal artist, I have no idea. I think probably. I think for one thing, it's perfectionism, right? If you're a perfectionist, you can never let something go. And then, if you are lucky enough to be sort of mythologized by yourself or by other people, then you do have to kind of live up to that image. And there must be a feeling like your legend is outstripping you somehow and you're getting left behind. So I don't know. There are probably pros and cons to being a genius. Maybe I'd rather just be a working director.
I don't think it's that necessarily a genius. We all have these moments in our life that, dictate how people see us. I mean, we have someone here who is quite famous, quite young, and is still dealing with that today. We all make these decisions. Yeah, look, it's all good. But I would like to just round out this conversation by asking both the gentlemen that worked on the process, highs and lows of Shakespeare, of working on Shakespeare. We'll start with Brian. What's how did you deal with the Shakespeare all the time?
Well, little do you know, Stevie, I actually had the Wadsworth anthology of Shakespeare crammed down my throat.
Of course you did.
Also.
Of course you did.
I directed Richard III once, so I'm not unfamiliar with Shakespeare, but it was definitely tedious. And I have to say that, like, through the Scottish play, and again upon rewatching it, it makes Shakespeare feel almost accessible and kind of fun again. That was one of the takeaways that really stuck with me.
Wow.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I was like, "Oh God, Shakespeare!" As I said, I'm like, getting tied around the throat, itchy hives coming out. But I was like, I was down with Sydney. Sydney was my kind of girl. Like, yeah, I'm down with you. It's all good. And then by the end of it, I was like, "Oh, this is cute. I like it. It's funny." I'm like, okay, so you made me appreciate Shakespeare.
Well,
So,
yeah,
again,
if I could, give one message to the people about Shakespeare, I would just say,
the people.
if you think Shakespeare is boring, it's because the people who taught him to you were boring. But Shakespeare's not at all.
100%.
Shakespeare is like an absolute punk rock lunatic genius. He's Mozart or David Bowie. He's crazy and doing crazy things with language and just messing around because he can. So, if it seemed dry in school, it was the school, not the Shakespeare. He's awesome.
Oh, usually is.
Agreed.
Usually is, but yeah, as I said, I enjoyed the ride. I was like, this Shakespeare, like Katrina said, was naughty. He was like Drop Dead Fred meets light Freddy Krueger with like a sex complex. It was cool. I was like, the actor that played Shakespeare, I was like, I'm down with you, boy. You're like, I'm down with you. You're good. You did a good job.
He's not even English.
Really?
Yeah.
He took me for a ride. I believed it.
I know, right? He's amazing. Will Brill he's one of my favorite actors in the world. And I knew him for years before we got to work together, just through mutual friends and stuff. And I ran into him at Sundance. And when I finally got to cast him in this movie, I was just delighted.
Yeah. Look, as I said, great cast, great. I enjoyed the ride. And I think, especially with movies, we're so fed like mainstream cinema these days, where you go in and go, this is exactly what to expect. Please sit there for an hour and a half, digest it or not, and then leave and complain about it on social media. But it's nice to go, okay, I don't know exactly what's happening straight away, and to just kind of go and be enveloped in the story and go, I was really invested by the end of this. I don't know if you can tell. I'm like, what's happening? It was also about 2:30 in the morning by the time I finished watching it. I was like,
nice. That's spooky.
Well, I also got that feeling
Shakespeare.
in the Winter House. There's that scene where Lily's approaching the door to lock it, and you're like, oh my God, she's been sitting in an unlocked house all this time,
Yeah, there's a lot. They are similar in that way, right? Because there's a lot of, they're not ultimately thrillers, but there's a lot of suspense material.
Yeah.
And it is fun. It's exciting when you don't quite know. I mean, to be honest, when I'm writing, I usually don't know where the story is going. Certainly in the case of both of these movies, I start with the premise, right? The basic idea, but I don't know what information is going to be revealed in Act 2 or Act 3. I don't know how the story is going to get resolved. And that's the fun for me, is I get to discover it as I go along. And hopefully the audience kind of experiences some of that, excitement.
We are going to move over to the Winter House now, so we'll knock on the door. I've already said it. How'd you get Lily Taylor, Keith? How'd that happen?
All right. Well, so you have to kidnap someone very close to her, and I wish it were a cool story where I cornered her at the gym or something like that. But no, it's just through the casting director, through her agent, and actually the movie was sort of packaged for us. So Lily and Francois Arnault plays her co-lead there. They came together. I mean, it took, it's a long process finding the right people, but when it happened fast. And they said they're the same agent, and Barry McPherson is his name, and he brought them to us essentially as a pair. He said, look, they want to work with each other. They like the script. They like each other. They're interested. What do you say? And all I had to do at that point was just say yes. And they're both.
He upsells you his product. He's like, yes, if you like this one, you'll love this one. Take both.
And he was right.
God bless Barry. We were down to the wire. We were about ready to start shooting. We didn't have a cast, and it came together really quickly. I think it was a couple weeks between signing them and actually shooting the film, and all of that was just before COVID. as well. So we
This is-
were up against a deadline we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was going to say, Keith, this is definitely a film that it was very character driven. So your two leads needed to be solid, otherwise the whole thing wouldn't work.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's almost just, as you know, it's almost just the two of them in the one house. So yeah, if those people aren't compelling and if their relationship isn't believable, the movie just falls flat. And luckily, I mean, the deluxe cat. Not only the two of them as actors individually, but the chemistry between them, unbelievable. They loved working together, and you could just see they just had that electricity. And those scenes, they kind of came alive in front of her. I mean, Brian, you were there. They came alive in front of us, right?
Yeah, it was impressive, especially watching Lily work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a movie star. She brings that charisma to the table, and I think the character as written, the character has a certain kind of aloofness. She's a writer, she's very intellectual, sort of removed from the situation. But Lily as a person brings this natural warmth and kindness and humor. And so the character could have felt very distant and cold, and instead we love her. Even when she's at her most difficult, we love that character. We feel for that character. We want good things for her, and that's just so important for an audience to buy into that main character.
Speaking of things that we want for her, why did you make me wait so long? The whole movie, I'm going, will they, won't they, will they, won't they?
And of course, we won't reveal.
And I'm like, come on. Are they going to? Are they going to?
This is
sure.
a traumatizer. She texts me about it. She's like, please tell me they get it on.
Let me guess you gives her groove back.
Yeah, it's I think I guess it was Alfred Hitchcock who said he liked to play the audience like a piano, and I don't claim to have that level of mastery, but if you give the audience what they want, they're not that invested. Whereas if you tantalize them with what they want, you can sort of string them along for a pretty good while there. So I'm sorry for torturing you, but it's my job.
Cinematic foreplay.
It was
exactly.
I loved it. Although I would have liked to have actually seen more because I'm a pervert.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Well,
I was going to say, was there anything on the cutting room floor? Because I think Katrina and I are both a bit of a fan of Francois.
Yes. God, don't I wish? Don't I wish? If I had. No, I don't know. I'm from New England. I'm very repressed, so I don't have it in me to shoot a protracted sex scene. I would feel too awkward. We shot essentially what you see on the screen.
Post-coitus.
Exactly.
So there's no naked Wednesday on your sets. That doesn't happen.
Well, you say you're from New England. That's definitely the Hudson Valley in both of those.
Well, we shot in the Hudson Valley, but it's substituting for New England. It's the magic of movies.
I have a question. In the opening scene, when it's snowing, how was that to film?
I mean, we lucked out with the snow. Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure that was just when we were shooting that stuff, and it happened to be, and there was not a lot of snow that winter, but it happened to be snowing when we were shooting those exteriors of the house. That's the way I remember it. Anyway, Brad, tell me if I have it wrong.
No, you're right. We got surprised by that kind of fake spring, and then it got cold again. We got a bunch of snow, and we spent a lot of time breaking and throwing chunks of ice in the lake when Keith wasn't looking.
Great, I'm finding out now.
The director wants ice. The director wants snow.
It did make being stuck in that house for a month straight much more bearable, though.
Yeah,
that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that because that was all filmed in the one house, right? That's
pretty much
close confines for actors and.
It's small. Yeah. It's small.
Talk about that.
The house next door. So we had another house that was for holding and for hair and makeup. So there was a place that you could retreat to. But yeah, when we were actually shooting, we were in this very small house together with a whole crew with a camera. It was close quarters. And I mean, as Bryant may have mentioned, I was often just sort of like over his shoulder, kind of in a half embrace there. We got pretty close. Literally pretty close. But and also the whole house was heated by the wood stove that you see. I think there was another wood stove downstairs, and there was that one on the main floor, very small. And so in the morning we'd show up, and before we get stoked those fires, it was freezing in that house. It was extremely cold. And then I think it was the job of the production design, the art department, they were the ones who had to stoke that fire every day and make sure people were comfortable. But then, of course, with the door opening and people coming in and out and equipment coming in and out, even when the air was warm, the air would then go out the door, and then you'd have to sort of wait for it to warm up again. It was not.
I was gonna say, being kept in close confines with each other during this, like, you know, a little bit Shining style. Did anyone lose it a bit on set?
Let me see. Let me think. What am I allowed to reveal? People behaved pretty well. I mean, look, there are. It's a stressful process. We shot this movie in 15 days.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a stressful. It's an intense environment. There were definitely moments with short tempers. There were moments of tension and conflict. I think that's inevitable when you're working that closely together on something that feels really high stakes. One of the things I love about movie making is that the objective stakes are so low and the subjective stakes are so high. So we know we're not curing cancer, but we sort of feel like we are. So there were things, there were moments, but I don't think anyone did anything that they had to regret at the end of the day. You know, we were all able to forgive each other when the process was over and hug it out. And, I have very, very fond memories of everybody who worked on that movie. Even Brian.
Even Brian. So how was it for you, Brian? Like filming in that house, like cameras. Like I know we've moved a long way in technology, and not everyone's, you know, we're not Cecil B. DeMille rolling around on giant tracks anymore. But it's not easy to wedge yourself in corners and, you know, try and get intimate with people.
It was a lot because, you know, as you saw, the set was fully dressed, like in the living room, the kitchen, and all that. So we were all trying to squeeze in there, along with the lights that they couldn't have outside. So it was cramped. I was thankful though that there was a little tiny room upstairs that I was able to keep all my gear in, so I didn't have far to go for lens changes or batteries. The camera itself wasn't super heavy, so I was just, you know, whenever Itor would move, I would just grab the whole rig with the tripod and run with it. There was a few times that I almost barreled over a few of our crew members, and being in there for a month, I probably told them that they should know to be out of my way by that point. But it wasn't bad. We like much like Keith, like I can't think of anybody that I didn't like on that job or like don't have anything but good memories about.
Did we just find the onset diva?
Did we find the onset? In fairness, I only yelled at one person on that entire job because he woke me up from my nap.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
crime.
It was lunchtime, and it was finally warm in that house, and I was determined to get a little snooze in, and he ruined it.
We're not naming names. We're not naming names. We did have a Diva crew member on that. I certainly will not say who it was. We did fire someone early on that shoot who was making everything about them. But then they were gone, and then things were smoother after that.
You have to though with that. When something's that small and, you know, you've got limited time, it's not time for egos. It's like, let's get the job done, people. Because
no, for sure.
Otherwise, we're screwed.
It was a tight time schedule, but we not only wrapped on schedule, but some days we wrapped early. I mean, we really got the most out of that location. You know, we really got a lot of efficiency out of not having to move a lot. And there were days when, you know, we typically shoot a 12-hour day, and there were days when we were 10 and a half hours in, and we go, well, I think we got it. And then we got to go home and get a little more sleep. So that's always good for morale when you can wrap it. Even if it only happens a couple times, it helps. You know, it helps people.
Point of pride, I think that this movie is far better than a Hallmark movie, and Hallmark shoots all of their features in 15 days, so they could learn a thing from you.
I was just telling my Hallmark story today, and I don't know if I should say this or not.
Yes, you have to.
Oh, you should.
Always yes.
We're
always yes.
All right. I think I will. I think I can tell this story. So it was the Scottish play. We were actually trying to see whether Hallmark could be a home for it. You know, whether they wanted to acquire the movie, which would have been a big coup for us because we're a small film, right? It would have been a big deal. And the feedback that we got, I really don't know if I'm supposed to say this. The feedback that we got from Hallmark is that the movie was too smart for their audience. I don't know if that was a backhanded compliment or just a cop
I
out.
think I would own that.
I no disrespect to anyone who loves those movies.
No, and I get what they mean. Like a Hallmark movie you turn on, it's almost like just popcorn food. Like someone you can sit there and it just falls on you. You don't have to think.
Okay.
And you know exactly
it's Melissa Joan Hart going Christmas.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things was my idea of like lightweight entertainment is not everyone's idea. So for me, like the Scottish play is super easy to watch. It's like it's effervescent and it's charming and it's delightful and no problem. But some people just hit a wall when they hear Shakespeare. So it's just a different thing.
If there aren't bells at the beginning, Hallmark people get confused. They're like, bells? Christmas? What? It's like, remember that old joke that like Lifetime movies should have been called Bad Stuff Happening to White Women? Remember back in the day when they made those, that's all they made? It's like,
yeah, women in peril, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, Hallmark don't really venture out to do like cerebral or anything like that. So
you couldn't have been on Hallmark because everybody's coats were buttoned.
Okay. Right, okay. That makes sense. That was my mistake. Darn it. Left all that money on the table. Hold on.
You'll learn next time.
Yeah,
next time you have to work with someone who was in a TV soap for like 17 years and they've decided they want to do a movie.
Perfect.
So,
I'm in.
Christmas.
Tell me where to,
my Christmas. See, if there's one thing I struggle with more than Shakespeare, it's usually Christmas movies. So Keith, if we can make that happen, I'll be very impressed.
I would love to do a Christmas movie. I've had a few ideas, nothing that's really quite panned out, but I would love to. I love Christmas movies. And there's such a wide spectrum of what you can do as a Christmas movie. So I would be there in a heartbeat. I just haven't quite found the right
horror.
No,
horror.
That's what I was about to say. My Christmas movie is like Gremlins or Krampus with the like horribly dysfunctional family that get exactly what they deserve. You're like horrible things happening to people, which is gonna segue because you have a film that I think we can safely say might fall into that kind of genre that's coming out, The Haunted Forest. You want to talk us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so last November, Brian and I were in rural Maryland, and we were shooting at this place called Markoff's Haunted Forest, it's basically like, imagine if your eccentric cousins built a horror-oriented version of Disneyland on their property.
Wow.
That's what happened. My eccentric cousins built a horror-oriented version of Disneyland on their property, and that's Markoff's Haunted Forest, and it's been really successful. They've been running it for 30 years. It attracts huge crowds every night in October, and it's just an incredible place. It's beautiful. It's fascinating. It's all handmade. It's like glorious. And we got permission to, my brother actually had the idea for this horror film years ago, and he and I have been batting around ideas for the script ever since, for years. And we finally got it together, and we got to use the place. We got the run of the place. We got incredible support from the whole team there. And so we were running around the woods, the cold, dark woods all night in rural Maryland, just spraying blood at people and bashing their heads in and stabbing them through the neck. And it was a blast. It was so much fun.
Sounds like my kind of fun.
Yeah, probably won't watch it.
Total departure. It's nothing like the Winter House. It's nothing like the Scottish play.
Yeah, Shakespeare just goes a bit.
There's very little Shakespeare in it, unfortunately, but lots of stabbing and I'm super proud of it. It has heart, it has humor, it has romance, it has all this stuff that I always love. Plus, it has people getting savagely murdered. So I think that's a win-win.
Man has range.
Thank you. I try. And I'm in this one.
Exactly. I was about to ask how, like, where's that swing from like Shakespeare to like two-handed drama to stabbing people in the woods? Like,
there's a learning curve. I mean, there are definitely commonalities between them. Like my approach to character and story doesn't really change. But there was a learning curve when it comes to the practical effects, for example, or how to shoot some of the sort of more action-oriented stuff. It was both a new adventure and in some ways familiar. I mean, same DP that I'd worked with in the last two, same AC as well. Brian and Itor were both in this adventure with me, and A lot of the team was new. The casting crew were new people that I never worked with before. And really some of the most fun I've ever had making a movie. I mean, just getting back to basics, super low budget. Everyone's doing it for the love. And people do get excited when you get to do something like decapitate someone. There's just a new energy that comes out of the set when that
I was about to say
Bryant moment, actually, because the focus rack was from the blood to the actor's face as the body falls towards her. And I think we only did 2 takes of that. So it was one of those things where you just say, okay, Brian, it has to be perfect immediately and you can't get a mark. All right, go.
I was just say, I wouldn't know. My sphincter was puckered the whole time. I was like, we got to get this.
You had some focus pulls on that movie in particular that blew my, like, stuff we had never rehearsed, stuff that just happened on the fly. And it was like, how did he do that? How did he know? He's got like a Zen master. I think I always joke that I'm one with the Force, and there's definitely times pulling focus that I believe it. Oh my god, yeah. The moment, the breaking glass thing, where there's like an actor lunging through a window right at your camera. I don't know how you pull focus on that, but you did.
I honestly thought I missed it. I remember looking at you saying, "Keith, I know I need another one," because I was waiting for a 3, 2, 1, go. Guy goes on 1, and I was like, just turn the knob.
Yeah, my cousin Alex.
I was like, well, I fucked that up. But no, it was perfect on the first take.
We couldn't do a second take because, as you remember, we had this, these frames of fake glass put into the window. We only had 2, so it was, we got this angle and we got that angle, and it was 1 take each.
Get it right.
We had to nail it both. Although we only ended up using one of those 2 shots because it looked so good in the side angle. So. There's still like one amazing shot that we got that was so much fun and so cool.
Wait, you didn't use the front angle?
Didn't you? I'm so sorry to tell you, especially in this setting, but
oh god,
I didn't use the
That's it.
Like,
no!
I'm sorry.
You need a drink, Brian. You need a drink, man.
I tried it. So that's the movie we shot, and so we're in post-production on that right now. Just locked the edit just a few weeks ago. We're working on the score, working on the color. And so the plan is to have the premiere of that movie this fall at Markoff's Haunted Forest. So the only place you'll be able to see it
I want to come.
Is there. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Horror fans can. So what, can you give us any details on plot or anything like that? Or is it just is that too specific?
I could try.
You can try?
I'll do my best. I don't really remember what the story was, but no, it's about a high school senior named Zach who's obsessed with horror films. He gets the opportunity to work at the Haunted Forest. He's so excited, right? He shows up and he's having a great time and he meets a girl and everything's amazing. And then people start dying for real and nobody knows what's going on.
Isn't that always the way?
It's so often.
Is that always the way? I think you've confirmed for me that horror movies look like they're a lot of fun. Like,
it's
to me,
and I had no idea. I'd never done one before, right? So I thought, it'll be cool. We'll be in the woods, whatever. But the energy on set when people get to be part of that story, it's a whole different level. It was just an amazing experience.
Now, a little bird has told me that there might be something to do with the Haunted Forest. That there's a bet. There's a bet. Brian, do you want to?
I'm pushing this to everybody who will listen. And Katrina, I'm really looking at you now. So, if we sell 100,000 copies of The Haunted Forest, Keith, in front of witnesses, has agreed to get a tattoo of one of the symbols from the movie. Matching tattoos. I'm going to get it also. And boy, do I want to make this happen. So we gotta push that movie to everyone we can.
I don't know if. So Brian has a number of tattoos already, beautiful tattoos, but the stakes are really high for me because I'm 42 years old. I have 0 tattoos. I've sworn against that I will never get one, and now I've made a commitment that if we sell 100,000 copies, I have to. So I'm kind of hoping the movie fails, and then I don't have to get it.
Oh no, you have to see the trailer so we can pump it out.
All right.
This is a really Keith, we haven't mentioned this to you yet. We actually have we have an offshoot program called Uncensored Horror that has a quite okay audience. So you might need to ready yourself for the needle, my friend. We will definitely We'll definitely push that. Brian was like, you need to mention this.
It'll bond us forever, Keith. It's a great idea.
I love that aspect of it. The part I'm not crazy about is the tattoo, but I would happily be bonded to you forever.
Just
And
get
I
it
think
under
we
your
are.
toe. It'll be okay. Just get it under your toe.
Get it on the face. The face tattoo has maximum effect.
Oh, okay. Maybe right
Yeah.
now. That's better. Bullseye.
Makes you completely employable in every situation.
Imagine the
Neil
terror you
Brennan.
could incite walking on the set, though, with a face tattoo. You're like,
Oh my God.
It'll
Well,
probably
yeah.
keep you off Hallmark.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm never gonna get the Hallmark movie now. When we do our Hallmark movie,
it's
I'll
all
get a
Brian's
Christmas
fault.
tattooed on me.
Yeah,
My bad.
definitely. Definitely.
Oh God.
You could
Make
do the
it
Hallmark
self-employed.
like a tramp stamp.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
God.
My favorite movie.
If they're going to give me a
tattoos were-
contract.
Do you guys remember when they made that first Suicide Squad movie? That was so terrible, and those people all got matching tattoos. Like they were so excited about this movie, they were like, "This is going to be our Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is going to be our Avengers." And so Will Smith and Joel Kinnaman and all these people, they got tattoos for their characters. And then the movie came out, and everyone was like, "Why did you get a tattoo for that?" I don't know if I should be talking trash about other people's movies, but it was terrible.
I wonder how many of them got it lasered off now.
I kind of hope so. I mean, all respect to the talented people who worked hard on that movie. It was garbage. It was really, really bad.
I was going to ask about like if you had your choice of project, if a major studio came and went, what do you want to do? Let's do it. You know, they're saying comic book movies up for you.
I love comic book movies.
Yay!
Love comic. If Marvel came to me with anything, I would do. What's like the worst Marvel? I would do like the Great Lakes Avengers. If they want me to do,
I love it.
I'll do the Paste Pot Pete solo film. I don't care. I love Marvel. I love comics. I would love to do. If I could choose anything, I want to make. It's tough because Robert Downey kind of marked his territory, but I would love to do a big budget Sherlock Holmes, even a low budget Sherlock Holmes film. I love Sherlock Holmes. Anything in the Sherlock Holmes world. I even wrote one actually that was about an elderly Sherlock Holmes, and then they made Mr. Holmes with Ian McKellen, and I was like, well, maybe mine doesn't need to exist.
The bastards.
The bastards. Yeah. No, I mean anything that. Like for me, the intersection of kind of pulp and realism. Yeah, think about the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, right? There's something so exciting about that, right? Where like it has all of the sort of romance and mystery of pulp fiction, but it's also grounded in some way. There's something human. There's something relatable. There's something real about it. I would love to play in a sandbox like that. I think that'd be so much fun.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So Haunted Forest. Yep. Sorry, you go, Luke.
Oh, no, I was going to say, finish off with Haunted Forest. I was going to ask about upcoming stuff.
That's exactly where I was going. Look, we are symbiotic minded.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the horizon afterwards?
There is. Yeah. I don't know how much I want to say about it because it's still at a pretty early sort of vulnerable stage, but we have a next movie. It's sort of in the horror space, but maybe more of a psychological thriller. It's gonna be great. What else can I say? It's called Emily's Dead. And it'll be coming to theaters near you in a year or two, or who knows? It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic.
But are you setting up your own cinematic universe where like Shakespeare will return eventually when people go to a house in the winter time and it's I don't know. Try to force all your characters into one movie. It's like,
I love that. I like the way you're thinking.
The Keithaverse. It's all good.
So on board.
So, where can people find you and find all the information that they need to know about you?
The best place to find me is, I'm going to sound really old, but probably Facebook. I have a professional Facebook page called The Keith Boynton, I think it is. I'm also on Instagram at Keith Boynton. That's usually more like just pretty photos of my niece and trees. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook, those are good places. The Scottish Play and The Winter House are both available on Amazon. They're on Apple TV. You can rent those. You can pay money for them if you want.
Help artists pay for them, kids. Come on.
There you go. There you go.
Do the right thing.
$4 or something. You know, treat yourself. You deserve it.
Do the right thing.
A long day.
Right. These men had to spend close time and close proximity together. Make it worth their while.
Thank you.
Come on.
That's right.
Residuals, people. We know they don't pay much, but you know, every 25 cents helps.
Every little bit.
Every 20.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, Keith, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fun. I've had a good
thank
time.
you so much. I really appreciate it.
And hopefully everyone out there will check out Keith's films. Thank you, Bryant, for being our special surprise guest in the wings. Thanks, Luke, Vera, and of course, Katrina. Until next time, we will see you again on Uncensored Radio. Bye.
Bye.